Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Human beings who are sensitive react. They react to things that the crystalline grid holds and delivers. And what I'm talking about is this. The crystalline grid of this planet is set up to remember energy. And where things happen that are, let us say, dramatic, they stay. When you walk into a cemetery or a battlefield, sometimes there will be remembrance and you don't really know what you're feeling. But it is the crystalline grid that does this. That's its design. That part of the shift is going to rewrite this grid. And against all odds, it's going to start remembering celebration instead of drama. Now, this is hard to believe. It's also hard to believe that human nature can change. These things will be self-evident in the future. Already they begin. The things that happened in the cave, barbaric. You still see that today, but only a small portion. With low consciousness culture that we have told you would exist even during the shift, trying to drag things backwards into that kind of energy. And human nature today has shifted enough not to allow it. I want to tell you about another cave. The cave of creation is one of 3 areas where the human Akash is kept. This is what I'm going to call Akashic accounting. It really, really does not affect you. But this is what they would call the minutiae that some of the spiritual intellectuals wish to hear. They want to know how it works. And every single time we talk about how it works, you should take a deep breath, because everything, every system, every plan is to benefit you. The benevolence of God is seen in the fingerprint of nature and the planning for the human being. It is there. Your lineage is so important, human. What you have learned and what you do is so important. For you have passed a tremendous marker. It's a test of consciousness, but not a test that you are required to take, one that you gave yourself. Is it possible for humanity to lift itself out of the barbarian years and start a path that is far more commensurate or complete with a higher consciousness, benevolent human? And this is where you are today, on the way, just barely having passed the marker, but already old souls are taking the energy and moving forward with it. The cave of creation contains what I would call a crystalline record of the Akash of all humanity. When you leave this planet in death, you leave your Akash here. You don't take it with you to the other side of the veil, not to that beautiful place where you join with family and God and others. No, you leave the earth part here. It is a real cave, but there is multidimensionality throughout. You might say it is even in another dimension. It is not to be found and never will, but it is part of Gaia. Deep. The crystal stays there, literally with your light name on it, until you come back. And when you come back, dear ones, your first breath is the announcement that you are alive again and on the planet. Your first breath. That's because the first breath says it is you surviving as you, not within your mother, but you surviving as you. When you come back, dear ones, at that point in time, metaphorically and esoterically, you pick up the crystal, and all the information that is in it pours into your DNA. Your past lives, all that you have experienced, and you're on the path yet again, etching new occurrences and new events right into that record. That's the cave of creation. We have told you that there is a conundrum, a puzzle that is 3D within the cave. For the cave, it contains every human being who will ever be on the earth. And you will say, wait a minute, that's predictions. That's a set future. It is not, dear ones. That is spiritual planning. What you do when you get here is free choice. But there will be human beings coming that are planning on being here, and they will arrive, unless you change it. Now here's the hard part. That particular element of the cave, which contains humans who are not here yet, will change with what you do now. So it's constantly dynamic, but it contains this beautiful Akash of you. That's probably the most profound record on the planet. But dear ones, there needs to be two more. One is within you. That is a living record. And although I cannot explain it to you fully, a living record has a different dynamic than a static one. The static one is in the cave. The living one is so different. And yet we have told you that humans have the propensity to destroy themselves on a regular basis. You were going to do it yet again and did not. However, there had to be a living backup system. And that becomes the cetaceans of the planet. I would like to remind you something that I say each time I speak of whales. That your biologists have classified dolphins as whales. Therefore, when we say whale, we mean dolphins and whales. And that is why you feel what you do for them. They are not aware of the fact that they carry your Akash. But let me tell you, they are the only mammal who is aware of your consciousness. They are attracted to you. You can prove this yourself with the interactions of both of the dolphins and the whales, all cetaceans. At some level, they are aware of a consciousness of a human being, and they are attracted to it. The only mammal on the planet. Oh, you may say, well, what about our pets and our dogs and our cats? Dear ones, you breed them for that. We are talking about animals in the wild. Animals who will mostly run from a human, but not the cetaceans. They tune into you, and they come to you, because they carry at some esoteric level in their biology all 44 chromosomes. They carry you. And this is the minutia that I wanted to share with you, but not in the cave. Because I wanted to celebrate the fact that both the whales and you still survive. And it didn't necessarily have to be that way. You made this happen, dear ones. The reason this is important, I'll say yet again. The Akash is partly that of the galaxy. It must survive. There'll come a day, very far away for you, tomorrow for me, when the potential is that you will seed another planet with your knowledge. And when you do, everything that has ever happened to you will be in their DNA. Will be in a cave on their planet and some kind of animal that they have. This is a plan that has been in this galaxy for eons and eons. It is an important one. It is not clearly seen as to why it must exist this way. And someday that revelation we'll also discuss with you. But for now, it's good enough for you to know that this is how Spirit sees the family, in a beautiful way. In a beautiful way. I want you to continue the ceremony that is coming. And I want you to think on these things. You are part of the planet. Even your Akash is part of the planet. It's all over the ocean. It's in the earth. It's in every human. That is magnificent. You are magnificent. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I speak the name of the consciousness, spiritual creator of the planet. Let us speak more of the tones. There are those who would hear these perhaps for the first time, and they would think they were just silly tones. Noises that don't make any sense, sung together by 1,000 people who don't know any better. Believe me, dear ones, there will be those who will hear this and not understand. And there is nothing that you can do to show them the compassion that has brought you, old soul, to this place. Identical twins have something in common. They are the only ones on the planet that have identical DNA. And they are also the ones who have discovered something very, very unusual. That when one of them is in trouble, the other one senses it. And it doesn't matter where they are. And they can be in opposite ends of the planet and have communications because of this anomaly. How would you explain this particular thing in what you would call your three-dimensional physics? And the answer is, you cannot. For the missing pieces must be multidimensional, and that is what you study now. The things that you are doing here that sound like silly tones in a three-dimensional world are profound in a multidimensional attribute. How do you explain love? Human beings in love with one another, feeling what they feel long distances away, knowing one is asleep and one is awake. The heart connection is like no other. It is multidimensional, and every single human on the earth knows that. And so you have all sensed that which is out of 3D. And that is what you are doing here today. Combining these things in a multidimensional way that have never been combined before except 20,000, 26,000 years ago. When, as we mentioned last time, they were indeed combined in this way and solidified something on the crystalline grid, a potential, a lock, an energy that literally created a puzzle which could only be undone by the same tones when the Earth lined up with the center of the galaxy. And it sounds odd. Now, if you were to really do this correctly, Yai. You'd have had 12 choirs of 400 each. All sing it together, and it would have lasted approximately 10 minutes. And that would have been it. And that would have been the closest thing to a quantum experience. For instead, you have had to put them in a linear order, in a linear fashion, and do it twice because of the numbers in the room. That is linearity. But you do the best you can with what you have. Now, there's one other thing I can tell you. You have named every single pair. You have 12 eloquent statements, and you've said each one of them 3 times. Here's what I would like you to do. I would like you to take all 12 statements, work them into a paragraph so they read well. And when the paragraph is read, I want you to know what you have. And it will be obvious because you haven't done that. You can put quotes around it, for it will be the multidimensional message that defines ascension status of Earth. To the last set of old souls, we discussed a phenomenon. We reminded them that the Pleiadians are here and always have been. We have told you that some of the profundities of energy on the mountaintops around the world is where they are. And let me tell you, they are stirring now. For even before the message in its entirety goes to the lens of the crystalline grid and is sent into the center of your galaxy, even before the ones on the planet know it. And these are the ones who are now realizing that the key is being turned. And it was always prophesied that this could be. That the Mayans in their fractal time computations said it would happen now. And that is what is taking place. But I would like to examine just for a moment what this means to you, old soul. For you are facilitating it. We talk about Lemuria, Lemuriha. We talk about you. If it is true that Yai could remember the tones in a shockingly accurate way, let me ask you, how does it feel here? How does it feel here? I'll tell you something shockingly accurate, that your intuition is right. This is your home, the mountain of Hawaii. And there are some of you who will deny it, but it is so. There are some of you who say, well, I can't take the heat. Well, you didn't look like you look now. And your cellular structure was much different then. You didn't mind climbing mountains to a height of 20,000 feet and performing this particular ritual. Old soul, every single one of you in the room is Lemurian. What are the odds that you would then be also the same gender? And I will tell you, it's not about odds. It's about what you contracted before you got here, on the other side of the veil this time, knowing that this particular thing could happen and that you would be part of it. It's about being the same gender so you had the same beautiful countenance and you could remember who you were. That you could remember that you walked this particular part of the earth when you were the core of humanity. And when you could remember that you have Pleiadian DNA. And all of this adds up to an energy that could not be created otherwise. Old soul, less than 0.5% of the earth is like you, who was here at the beginning and can claim that you were part of the originals, the ones who knew the names that could not be pronounced, who walked with them, among them, and recognized them as the creators with you. The ones who taught you about spirit, who gave you the compassion of God. That is the old soul here today. When you go outside of the room and you look at the ocean, I want you to remember, this is where you came from. This is hope. This is about you. The room is filled with those you cannot see. The ancestors are here. Those you have loved and lost are here. And we know who you are. There are no mysteries in the room to spirit. But the fact that the old souls have come together to build this bridge that literally will join a federation of enlightened civilizations of the galaxy is profound. But we know who's here. And here you sit in a place that you have planned for months to be in, if not longer, wearing the color of the tones that you chose to sing, bringing this bridge to life. But what about you? How many of you were aware that in the tonalities there's healing? That by yourself at home, perhaps you were rehearsing and you felt different? That some of you realized this profundity of what you were about to do had another factor to it. And when you sang them alone, you felt better. And so I bring up this, dear ones. You can't have a multi-dimensional attribute or a message to the galaxy without feeling it yourself. For the very cells of your body begin to react when they feel and hear and recognize the Akashic remembrance, old soul, of who you were, of what you've been through, of what you've done, an awakening of your own Akashic federation of unity. There's healing in these tones. The alignment of the precession of the equinoxes has an interesting attribute all by itself, in that the last 18 years and the first 18 of the next alignment form a 36-year window of opportunity for seeds to be planted. But one of the attributes that you will notice that we have talked about now for some years in the new energy is that the end of the old times creates strife. That a new consciousness is not allowed to simply present itself gently. Instead, the old consciousness of the darkness wants to pull against it. Countries that had been stable for centuries fall apart. Unbalanced gunmen shoot children. Systems that used to work for a very long time don't work. Things you thought were set fly apart. And this, dear one, is the attribute of today. I know who's here. And so I'm going to simply say this. I don't want this lost on you. You can't sit in a room like this and pretend you're sending a signal somewhere else. Because it goes into you first. It comes out of you first. It's generated within your consciousness and your cellular structure. You can't swell up and sing these things without them resounding through your own body. So let the healing begin. I know who's here. Let it begin with you, in you. And walk from this place different because of it. You're sending a signal to the galaxy. Are you going to stream this message? And you said no. Now that's funny. The final transmission is complete. And you cannot undo what you've done. There is no delete key with spirit. And that's a good thing. Let it be known this day that what you have come to do has been accomplished. The things from here forward will move slower than you want. But this is typical with anything that is planted. And the farmer knows. But the farmer also knows how to plant. The seeds of high consciousness, of love and compassion have fallen on ground it was not ready for so many years. And as you grew up, the old soul in you that wanted so much more than this earth was willing to give disappointed you over and over and over. And some of you were so convinced it could be different that you left your families behind in search of a compassionate lifestyle, a more loving earth, perhaps something you could do that you'd never done before. And here you are doing it. The seed that you have planted this day falls upon ground that is ready. For the lens is broadcasting your intent. Let me tell you, dear ones, the seeds that you have planted of compassion and love fall right into the place where they can be watered efficiently. But it's now up to you to water them. And you know what I mean. For when you leave this place, do not change your countenance. Do not see the job done. See the seed planted. I know who's here. There's so many interesting things I can tell you. There are synchronicities abounding in the room of perhaps who has not met who should. Who comes from the other side of the planet on purpose to meet somebody here. That the answers to problems are here. The beginning of healing is here. Do you know the synchronicities of those who stand on the platform? What about the song masters? You realize they were song masters then too? They know it. Or if they don't, they will. Isn't it interesting? They did it at 20,000 feet in Lemuria. That means they were cold. But they got used to it. And they come into this planet today both from cold countries. Look at Yai. He was born in a cold state on the mainland. There are many synchronicities. Look at my partner. We told you who he was in Lemuria last time we were here. He was simply a messenger. And he still is. He didn't have to work in the temple. He didn't even like the temple. It was too cold. And then there is the teacher Peggy, who is here. She worked in the temple. Alani He is your name, dear. You had the most beautiful bronze skin and black hair. Today you're obviously here in disguise. I just want to tell you you're family. You're all family. You can hug each other freely knowing you're family. That there is a lineage in the room that represents the civilization of the planet. And the ones that are here and the ones that were here a few hours ago will combine in a moment. And I want you to rejoice and sing that the key in the lock has been turned. Thank you. This is my 12th communication. Some of you received a message. The messages come in many layers and forms. A message had been sent to you from the center of the galaxy. And I will tell you what it is in just a moment. And that's for all of you. Private messages have been sent. Messages that say it's going to be okay. Messages that said, I love you, Mom. And you know who that's for. Messages from Gaia that said, it's about time. I have a private message that I wish to deliver. It's from the ancestors of this land. It's private, so not all of you will understand, but the ones who need to will. It's a gray-haired man standing in the back. His shirt is not red or yellow. It's both. It's a beautiful wooden cane. Typically he's wearing shorts. And he's been standing there for years. And here's the message to you, Makua, from the ancestors of this land. My dear soul, it's okay to leave the mountain. Kalai has it covered. But the message for you today that comes from the center of the galaxy is one that I have told you before would come. Profound it is. It says it's time to say goodbye. Not to each other, not to family, but to an old energy on this planet that has been with you and your ancestors from the beginning. It's time to say goodbye to a civilization that would war with each other, that you call human nature. It's time to say goodbye to inappropriate behavior of unbalanced human beings against those who are helpless. It's time to say goodbye to a consciousness that would not support love and compassion. It's time to say goodbye to a macho-heavy earth. That's what it started in this room. Message received. Message received. And so it is.